Hello, readers. Welcome to Mrs. T's Treasury of Books. I am Mrs. T, and I am so excited to be reading with you today. Today is World Read Aloud Day. And of all the books I could have selected, I decided to read Undefeated, written by Kwame Alexander and illustrated by Kadir Nelson. I selected this book because it is so powerful. This book really just makes me feel so proud to be an African-American woman, proud of my grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, and all of the ancestors that came before me. This book inspires me. It inspires me to be the best that I can be every single day. This book encourages me to dream big. And Kwame Alexander writes an amazing poem, and Kadir Nelson's illustrations are absolutely beautiful. Now, we know that good readers are always thinking. And I want you to be thinking as you hear this story today, how does this poem make you feel? And I want you to also be thinking about a way that you can, what you've learned from this poem, and a way that you can share what you have learned with someone else. Undefeated by Kwame Alexander, illustrations by Kadir Nelson. The Undefeated. This is for the unforgettable, the swift and sweet ones who hurdled history and opened a world of possible. The ones who survived America by any means necessary. Look at the strength in this illustration. Beautiful. And the ones who didn't. This is for the undeniable, the ones who scored with chains on one hand and faith in the other. This is for the unflappable, the sophisticated ones who box adversity and tackle vision. Who shine their light for the world to see and don't stop till the break of dawn. Love these illustrations. This is for the unafraid, the audacious ones who carried the red, white, and weary blues on the battlefield to save an imperfect union. I love that choice of words, audacious, powerful. The righteous marching ones who sang, "We shall not be moved because Black lives matter." This is for the unspeakable. And this is the middle passage, the slave ship, and how our ancestors were packed into these slave ships. We are survivors. This is for the unspeakable. The Birmingham bombings of the children who were bombed in the Birmingham church. This is for the unspeakable. Sandra Bland, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin. This is for the unlimited, unstoppable ones, the dreamers and doers who swim across the big sea of our imagination and show us the majestic shores of the promised land. The Wilma Rudolphs, the Muhammad Alis, the Althea Gibsons, the Jesse Owenses, the Jordans and the LeBrons, the Serenas and the Cheryls, the Reese Whitleys and the undiscovered. This is for the unbelievable, the we real cool ones. This is for the unbending, the black as the night is beautiful ones. I just love the language of this poem. This is for the underdogs and the uncertain, the unspoken, but no longer untitled. This is for the undefeated. This is for you and you and you. This is for us. And here he goes on to write this afterword. And the afterword is really important that we read this and that we, as good readers, we don't overlook this. An afterword is a literary device and is often found at the end of a book. And it generally tells the story of how the idea for the book was developed and the author's purpose for writing the book. And this helps us to understand and comprehend even more what it is that we just read about, or what we just read. So I'm going to read this part in our hearing. And he says, the author, I started writing this poem in 2008. That was the year my second daughter, Samaya, was born. After 3 months later, Barack Obama became the first African-American president of the United States. This poem was my tribute to both. I wanted to establish from the very beginning that much of what I'm talking about in this poem, so much of American history has been forgotten, left out of the textbooks, and that is truly, and to truly know who we are as a country, we have to accept and embrace all of our woes and wonders. So I wrote a poem because I wanted my daughters to know how we got to this historic moment. Or as the famous Mahalia Jackson spiritual says, you know, my soul looks back and wonder, how did I make it over? I wrote a poem about Black Olympians such as Jesse Owens and Wilma Rudolph, undermining the false narrative of white superiority by racing to gold in front of the whole world. About Malcolm X urging Blacks to fight for freedom, justice, and equality, no matter the method or the cost. About enslaved Africans pushing on with an unwavering fighting spirit of hope and faith. Faith that one day they would be free, or that their children or their children's children would become the masters of their own destinies. About Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston and the Harlem Renaissance. About cultural expression and liberation and the Black arts movement. About Dr. King's acceptance speech for the 1964 Nobel Peace Prize. About a promised land without racial injustice, poverty, and war. About civil rights marches chanting, "We shall overcome," and demonstrating across the South. About Jack Johnson and Muhammad Ali boxing racial prejudices in and out of the ring. About Black Civil War soldiers saving a union that refused to see them as equals. About Black lives matter. About Black lives matter. About Black lives matter. Because we are Americans, because we are human beings. But mostly, I wrote a poem to remind Samaya and her friends and her family and all of you, and to remind myself to never, ever give up. Because as Maya Angelou wrote, we may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. It may even be necessary to encounter the defeat so that we may know who we are, so that we can see, oh, that happened and I rose. I did get knocked down flat in front of the whole world and I rose. Keep rising. Kwame Alexander, May 11, 2018. So as I said, this book is so powerful. I believe that it needs to be in every home. And what I also love about it is he goes on to, in the book, we also have the different historical figures and events that were spoken of in the poem Undefeated. So if there's something that you did not quite grasp, or you're not quite sure of who the illustrator was drawing in the picture, then you can go back and certainly you'll be able to find that out. And you may also want to do some additional research. So I really hope that you enjoyed Undefeated as much as I did. I certainly wanted to share this with all of my reading family and my reading community. And I encourage you to add this one to your home library, to your classroom libraries. And so I want to say to you, readers, think about what it is that you learned about today. What questions do you have? Because good readers, we have questions. And I also want you to think about, how did Undefeated make you feel as a reader, as you were listening to this being read to you? So I told you that I felt proud, I felt inspired, and I felt encouraged. So share with someone today how Undefeated made you feel. Until next time.